Hello, welcome to the next part in my Metaverse game series. This one focusing actually on the second part of a game that I already covered, of the first part of it at least, Vowel Vanguard. And for those who don't recall, that video ends with me linking to this second part of the experience. So instead of the usual having a experience start with a character item, what we're going to do is we're going to put it in a logic box that says has item. And in this case, it's looking for the item Y right here. Uh, Now, it says ID, it has an ID code and everything, but that's Y right there. So what's going to do is as soon as the game starts, it's going to check to see if Y is in the person's inventory. If it isn't in their inventory, then what it's going to do is take them down here and it's going to say, sorry, username, but you need to complete part one before you can continue. I'll send you a message that'll take you to part one. And then we have message to current user and it links to the first part of the experience. After getting the message, it asks them to come back when they finish. And then, it's basically just letting them know that they can't complete this without doing part one. Now, for those who have completed part one, it takes them to this alternate path, and this is where the actual game takes place. And it acts as if the person already has done it. So it just says, good job fixing the words with the vowels I gave you. Looks like you still have the letter Y in your inventory. It's a little, redundant. Just trying to make a bit of playful dialogue, but they wouldn't be able to get this far if they didn't. Nevertheless, they click on that, and now it says, great. Then I won't delay any longer. And so then we give a lesson on how Y works. Y is tricky because it's in English, there are letters called consonants and vowels. And I think I'll do a video on consonants in entirety. But for now, I'll just simply say that consonants are they're the words that come in between vowels. They're the words that make short sounds, whereas vowels make big sounds, and they kind of sound like the letter that's visible. Now, Y is tricky because it's a vowel sometimes, whereas A, E, I, O, and U are vowels all the time. And then sometimes Y is used as a vowel in place of other vowels as well. And this is pretty interesting because it's like, for the word cry, it makes I sound, but we use the letter Y anyway. It's probably because it relates back to Old English, and the Old English spelling of cry is probably very similar to this. But there are other times where it's more than just conjecture that you go off. Sometimes, or actually most of the time, you use Y to replace another word. It's because if you don't, then you would have a synonym, or not even a synonym, but you would have a homonym, which is a word that sounds the same but means something different. An example of that is bite. If you spell bite with an I, you're referring to the action that you take with your teeth. You bite into a sandwich. Scruff McGruff takes a bite at a crime, but if you use Y, it refers to a unit of computer data, and that's supposed to be of, not on, but refers to a unit of computer data. So terabytes, gigabytes, yottabytes, those are different bytes than using your teeth. So that's why we have to use the letter Y to differentiate. So it is pretty important to get the hang of Y when it's being used as a consonant or a vowel. In particular, when you're using Y to replace vowels, it primarily will replace the letters I or E. There are a few cases where it does, it's a little different, but I didn't want to overcomplicate this lesson, so I just focused on if Y replaces I or E, or if it's, acting as a consonant and it's not replacing either. So what I do now is we're about to play a game. It's actually about to be a leaderboard experience as well. And what it says is choose I if the word is, it's making a, let me see this. So it says, between the answers, choose I if the word presented to you uses the word Y to make. It's supposed to say an I sound. so it's good that we check that. It's supposed to make an I sound. Or choose E if the bracket word uses Y to make an E sound. And those are two of the big ones, two big sounds that Y will substitute for. Conversely, if the bracketed word is using Y as a consonant, it's not a vowel, it's just the word in between, then what we're going to do is we're going to just have it, have the user click the word or the letter Y. An example of Y being used as a consonant is U, where at the beginning it's making this sound, it's not making a hard sound, it's just U, like Y, how we traditionally will use it. So now in the experience, it switches over to a game, and what it does is we have a lot of increment and decrement leaderboard logic boxes. I covered how to use these and how to make a leaderboard in a previous video. So I'll just mostly mention the fact that all of the leaderboard scores should be the same if you want the users to have an even score. If you want to do a bonus question or a question that has a greater value, then you could change it. But in this case, I was trying to have all of these be the same. And then also, you have to make sure that all of these link to an appropriate screen, or else then the user might get stuck. This one probably happened just from a simple oversight, but nevertheless, it's definitely important to make sure that those oversights aren't there in the finished game. So you want to check all of your experiences, make sure they're linked to another scene, that they have a score value, and that they have the leaderboard ID. Once again, you can watch the video where I really focus on leaderboards to see how you can do that. But with the leaderboard ID, it's a copy paste that you get from the leaderboard page. And so with all that being said and done, the game should work, it should function smoothly, and then at the very, very end, it will take them to the ending screen where it will let them know if they can try again, they can check their score, or they can just leave the experience. So with all that being said and done, let's give this a test ourselves. Alright. So now, as you can see, it just starts because I already have Y in my inventory. Then what we're going to do is, before I said Y was tricky, And so this is the lesson part. As I mentioned before, you wouldn't even get to this lesson part without having Y in your inventory. Now, what I might do in the future is I might have it to where in the part 1, it'll only give the person the Y once. Maybe it'll check to see if it has it in their inventory. And if it doesn't, we'll just take them to another screen without giving it to them. But for certain, giving it to them again so that we'll only have one Y in their inventory. But now we've reached the game, and it's just laying out the rules for the game, so everything is working just fine. Then it briefly introduces the concept of consonants, and I was hesitant on, if I should have mentioned it as consonant, but I figured that I'll at least introduce the idea here and then make another video that expands on what consonants are. But okay, so here's our game. Now, in this case, Stephanie is being used to make an E sound. And it's, when you say Stephanie, you even can't help but say it, with an E. So I'm going to click E here. I purposely have it to where there's no indicator if the answer is right or wrong until they check their score at the end. But you can have it to where you put in a scene that indicates you got the answer correct, you got the answer wrong. But in this case, it's mostly a leaderboard. It's mostly just to test and see if everyone's, got it right. So with this one, lady is being used to make an E sound again. But what we're going to do is we're going to purposely pick the wrong answer. And so I'm going to get everything else right. But considering that these are all worth 50 points, and that I believe there are 5 of these, I'm going to end up with a lesser score than what I should have had. So now with this one, Y or Yeti, Y is being used as a consonant. With Lily Pad, it's being used as an E again. And with Larry King, it's being used as an E again. Now let's see, check your score or exit the experience at your leisure. So we're going to check the score. It's taking a bit of time to load. Alright, well, I might have to check that and see what's wrong in this case. Yeah, it looks like we ran into a bit of an issue. So let's see. So what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to take them to it. And it could just be possibly an issue that I'm having with my connection. I'm going to check and see if I can find it. What we can do, we can copy this and we can use the URL. Alright, so it seems like the leaderboard is checking out. Now, as I mentioned before, that I was going to have a shorter score. And it's 150, whereas it should have been 200 if I got everything correct. So it means that everything else was correct, but this one where I intentionally missed it. So it should take the user to the ending, or it should take them to the leaderboard where they can view their score. There isn't really anything wrong on my end. I think this might just be a connectivity issue. But in this case, if this problem is still persisting, then hopefully the user will report the experience so that way we can all know what's wrong with it, and then we can figure out, is this a connectivity issue? Is this a problem with the code? Other than that, though, everything should still work out. So everything should still work out. And overall, I'll still check on this experience and see if I can figure out what's going on with it. But when you do this with your experiences, you hopefully won't have this problem and everything will be perfectly smooth. But yeah, that basically covers these concepts that I wanted to go over today. So thank you for your time and have a good day.